So nice to see you again. It's Thursday, and today we're going to talk about cell salts part 2. We covered the first 6 last week on Thursday and thought we would share the next, actually 7. This time we're going to include BioPlasma, but that's going to be at the end. So we're hoping that if anybody has questions that they will share their questions in the comments and we'll be sure to respond. And I'm happy to introduce my partner, Dr. Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hello, everyone.
How's London today?
Oh, today is beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful here in Maine too. Gorgeous day. Like we're finally getting summer. How very nice.
I know in England came late too, but
Yeah,
it has been amazing. It just makes you feel that you don't want to work. Just go out in the sun.
I just want to go outside and play.
Yeah, I know.
I have to admit, I stuck the chickens in the garden today because it's so beautiful. And there are so many bugs that have taken over my plants because I did not do what Catherine did and spray things with remedies like I was supposed to. It rained here so much that I always felt like, oh, I need to go out and spray the garden, and then it would rain. So apparently between the caterpillars and the slugs, they've decided that the cabbage and the broccoli and the cauliflower belongs to them this year. So I'm just letting them have it. That's just how it is.
Oh, it's such a shame.
Sometimes,
even with the rain, it doesn't matter, because the rain just brings the remedy into the soil.
It's true. And I think you can add cell salts to the soil as well.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look into that, and maybe we'll share that next week at the tail end of gardening. So today we're going to talk about all of these lovelies, and let me see if I can remember how to share my screen, and then we'll have a list to go by. How's that sound? Okay. Hey, there it is. Look at that. So
yeah, beautiful.
it's quite a list.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah. So Kali Sulphate. Let's start with that one. What can you share with us about Kali Sulphate?
So Kali Sulphate, like calc sulf, they both share in common the yellow discharges. Exactly. It's very important. Oh, thank you. It's very important for the skin balance. Usually, if there is weeping, if there is oozing, it will be yellow.
Mm-hmm. It's not a very pretty cell salt.
Well, they are all kind of, not pretty if you see them from the very pathological side. But between Kali sulf and calc sulf, they both share the yellow discharges, as I said, but for me, I tend to find that calc sulf is more effective when the discharge is thick and opaque, while in Kali sulf, it can be yellow, but more thin, not so purulent. Purulent? How do you say purulent?
Yes.
With a proper accent, purulent. So, well, one it will be thick, milky yellow, and the other more watery, more transparent yellow, in simple terms. And there is as well shifting pains, which of course in the animals is very hard to tell. If it is on people, they will tell you that with the skin conditions or with the cold or with, the discharge from the nose or even with discharge from the eyes, there will be shifting pains. And so, that is almost a keynote for Kali sulf and to help to differentiate from calc sulf.
One of the things that I found, I love looking in Schussler's book too, because you find these little tidbits and you kind of get used to using cell salts for certain things. And then I'm like, well, what does he have to say? Because he's the man, right? He's the one that pulled all this together. And he talks about Kali Sulphate. It's got a reciprocal action with iron effects. It affects the transfer of inhaled oxygen to all the cells and is contained in all the cells containing iron, which I thought was kind of interesting. So if you're iron deficient, do you think that, you know, I mean, obviously the ferrum is
the
what
ferrum
you think
phos.
of, right, when
Maybe
you think of
that's
iron.
a wonderful combination to go
Yes.
ferrum phos with Kali Sulphate for a Kali Sulphate condition.
Yeah, to
But
build
build
that back up again.
Yeah, but let me open here a parenthesis.
Yeah.
Only with tissue salts you match a homeopathic remedy with a condition. You don't do that in homeopathy. These that's why we call it like the homeopathic vitamins. And that's why
a great term. I like that.
That's why it is so important for people to learn about them, because they can use them not only with confidence but successfully as well. You know,
they're very supportive, very, very supportive. And maybe next week we can look at that and show what cell salts support what remedies, because I remember that in school and it was one of my favorite classes. So yeah, Kali Sulphate, number 7. So let's move on to number 8. This, I've been living on this all week.
Oh, this is such an amazing slide. I mean, for people to remember MagPhos, all you have to think is cramps, spasms, and twists, and colic, which again is a cramp of the intestine.
Good point.
You know?
Good point. Yeah.
And muscle. That's a beautiful picture of a muscle. So muscles.
Yeah.
It's the tissues in the body that creates cramps, and so yeah.
Yeah, and MagPhos, I have been told from various different sources over the years, usually when I've thrown my back out or done something terrible to myself, to always put it in water.
Warm water.
And sip it over the course of the day. Don't chug it down. Just take sips and allow it to kind of, as my herbal teacher says, bathe your tissues. I love that. She talks about teas and how they bathe your tissues. So that's an important thing to know about MagPhos, and it really does help to relax the muscles and the nerves. My shoulders have been like this all week, and I've been sipping on MagPhos and finding throughout the day that, you know, things are kind of like relaxing and settling down. And then I go rip out weeds and they're back again. So for animals, how do we know? Like I chose a racehorse for this because I feel like they are pushed so hard for such a short amount of time. And I'm going to go back to the fairs because that's really big over here in the States, especially in New England, where the animals are doing pulling and hauling, and they're in all these competitions, and they go from being in a barn with a whole bunch of other animals, really sedentary, to all of a sudden they put all their gear on and they're in line, and then they have to drag 1,500 pounds or 5,000 pounds across, you know, a bunch of dirt or what have you. And I think this one might be a really good remedy for them to take before and after. What are your thoughts for farm animals where this kind of plays a role?
Look, MagPhos is fantastic, but if you're gonna give it in tissue salts before and after, you need to build up. So you know that the competition is coming, and you start giving it 3 times a day, way in advance. And then, of course, in the day and the day of the event, as often as possible that you can put your hands on the animal or give the remedy to him. And then again, I would follow up at least 2, 3, 4, 5 days after. It's fantastic, the racing there, because I remember my husband is very much sedentary, and then suddenly he remembers that he loves cycling, and from not doing nothing all year, suddenly jumps on his bike and he will be able to do 100 kilometers, but in a completely spastic way, which is fine because he has all the stamina. And then he comes and for a week is dying with
After.
cramps and
Yeah.
spasms, so overexertion of the muscles. And MagPhos, one single dose, homeopathically, okay, was enough to stop all that. With tissue salts, you want repetition, so 3, 4 times a day. If the animal has, a lot of exercise or is expecting to do a lot of exercise, you build them up. And this is definitely the remedy to go for.
Fantastic. Great feedback. Thank you. And then number 9 is another one of my personal favorites. I feel like I have all 12 of them and I have them all in a line, but I know which ones are going to be missing when I go in the cupboard. And Natmur is definitely one of them. This is such a great cell salt. So Schuessler talks about the sodium chloride, common salt, right? That's what Natmur is. And the cell salt, the water which is introduced into the digestive canal in drinking or with the food enters into the blood through the, I can't say this word, epithelial cells of the
epithelial cells.
That's the one. Too many ileals of the mucous membrane by means of the common salt contained in these cells and in the blood. For salt has the well-known property of attracting water. And we recently had a case where the dog was very depleted from an infection. And that was one of the things that you said was put a little bit of honey and some sea salt in their water. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. So that takes me back to this cell salt. So tell me a little bit about your experience with this and how you've seen this work well.
Well, this would be my tool to go to when there is a lot of dryness, either dryness of the mucosa, like for instance, children that say they have a cold and they might even have a runny nose with watery discharge. And then they say, oh, I feel that my nose is all dry inside, although they are discharging. So there is the dryness of the skin. Same, I have lots of moms telling me, saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with my child, but her skin is so dry. So dryness of the skin, dryness of the mucous membranes. Natmur is great. Also, I would go to Natmur if there was an altered taste or a loss of smell and a loss of taste. Sometimes you get a cold again and you say, I can't taste anything. Or everything tastes differently. But usually, people don't say, it's not so much that I have less appetite. I still have appetite. But when I go and I eat, I cannot taste anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't taste right.
So they're not inclined to eat. And that's when you find a lot of people add salt, which is, it's
to
like,
bring
I can't
up the
taste
flavor.
It, so
Yeah, because the salt brings out the flavor and brings out the flavor in food, and in a metaphorical terms brings out the flavor in life. And that's why as well Natmur is again a very good tissue salt when you see a little bit of sadness. you know, the child has a cold and he looks sad,
Or the animal has
or
a
the
cold.
animal has a
Yeah.
cold
Like
and
this
he looks
goat
sad.
is the goat in the big picture has the watery nose.
Yeah.
But you can often tell, you know, obviously you're not sleeping out in the barn with your animals, but you can usually tell if they've had a rough night. They don't have the vigor and the energy that they typically would in the morning when you go out to feed them. Usually they're like, you know, they're all about food. But if you find that one of your animals has a really watery discharge in the nose, and you know they're bloated,
Looks sad.
yeah, looks sad, it's kind of hanging back, they seem a bit bloated and they look kind of tired, then you might try some Natrum. The goat at the top of this, when I was looking up bloated goats, you should have seen the fascinating photos that I came up with. So much fun searching for photos. But this goat, you can really see where it's not a pregnant goat. This is literally bloat in this goat, and Natrum is a perfect place to start, especially if that goat was like sneezing or had the watery nose. So number 10 is Nat Phos. And that picture up at the top, just so everybody's clear, is a cow. And no, the top picture is a cow
picture,
with
yeah.
its digestion. I was trying to show kind of the intestinal, because it talks about intestinal disorders for Nat Phos. All about acid neutralization. And I'm not sure, like, do we see that in animals? I guess we would. We've recently had some horses with issues, and I'm learning more and more about the timing of when they go out to pasture, when they eat the grass, what time of day they should be eating the grass, when it's the sweetest, et cetera, and so on. So can you talk a little bit about that and what your experience has been with animals and their digestion?
So my experience with animals is usually, I have used Nat Phos very successfully in tissue salts for newborns.
Oh.
When they do not digest the milk of the mother properly, or when there is some regurgitation of milk, or when the newborn, after breastfeeding, they have some issues, of course, but the owners come to me and they say, they smell a little bit sour. They smell a little bit acidic. So any kind of intestinal disorders that come with breastfeeding.
That's
It's
fantastic.
very, very good.
Yeah, and you can often see the animals that are, when they're newly born, if something went wrong during the labor and the mom is not there, or they can't get the colostrum, you can tell the difference between the newborns when that happens. So so that's fantastic information. And Nat Phos, they talked a little bit about rheumatic pains in joints. Do you think that that's got anything to do with the acidic piece?
Well, for any kind of inflammation, rheumatism or not, you need an acidic environment. And Nat Phos is all about acidity, heartburn, indigestion. So I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, rheumatism and the rheumatic pains in the joints would be helped by Nat Phos. To be honest with you, rheumatism is quite a big chronic condition, and I would go with a chronic remedy for that. But in addition to the chronic remedy, Nat Phos is definitely, let's say like this, if it has the potential to do a lot of good, but even if it doesn't, harm it won't do. So it's definitely a remedy to add to your toolkit.
Yes, yeah.
If there are animals that they are old and they start having rheumatism,
yeah,
animals or people, I would say.
Yeah, and I was just reading in Schussler's book that uric acid is dissolved in the blood by two factors, the warmth of the blood and Nat Phos. If uric acid is deposited from its solution in the joints or near them, owing to a deficiency of Nat Phos, or when it is combined with the base of carbonate of soda into urate of soda, which is insoluble, then there arises an acute arthritic rheumatism. So this makes me think of gout.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I don't think they call it gout in animals, but because it depends on the animal, and it would be difficult to articulate that since they don't necessarily have toes the way that we do. But I can see where with the rheumatism, this would be a really big deal for animals. And I think we prescribed this for a goat who was having the flexor issues.
Yeah.
Was it now? Yeah, Nat Phos as one of the cell salts. So yeah, another fantastic cell salt to have on your shelf. Number 11 is Nat Sulph, and assists with eliminating water and supporting healthy function of the liver, bile ducts, pancreas, and intestinal canal. That's why I showed the horse that you can only see its organs.
Very nice. Very nice. So in a nutshell, Nat Sulph, it's all about, I used it successfully when there is a lot of edema of the lower limbs.
Okay.
So, and that's why it says here in the slide that it helps eliminating water and supporting healthy functioning of the liver.
Mhm.
And of course, is a very big liver remedy. So wherever we have liver malfunction, and that is usually as well one of the causes why you have constipation and flatulent colic and edema. This is the salt to go to.
Fantastic.
The other thing is that this is a salt that you should definitely go to if the animal lives in very damp conditions, or it does not live in damp conditions, but suddenly, you have a period of rain non-stop.
Yeah, we're about to have a hurricane come up the coast here. So, I mean, we've had a lot of rain this year too, so it's not going to be a
I
huge
know.
thing, but
Jesus.
that's
You
good
and
to know.
Ireland. I am putting Nat Sulph as the elective tissue salt for Ireland.
Yeah, and I think every Mainer needs Nat Sulph this year too, because we have had so much rain. So much rain. That's fantastic. Really, really good point. Just to be able to move the water through their system in a very healthy way, and not have it become an issue. So that leads us to number 12, silica. This is another one of my favorites. It's often missing off of the shelf. It's something. I use this a lot for, not that we have it a lot, but in the birds for bumblefoot, when they get that big swelling on the pad of their feet, then I start putting the silica in either in their food, or I put it in their water dishes a couple of times a day, just to keep everybody healthy. And the background picture, it didn't come out too great, but it's actually a cow who is missing a lot of hair, like the hair loss has occurred in this cow, and it could really serve to have a dose or several for several days. As we've talked about, this is not something where you give one and you're done, of silica in its water or food. And then the sheep at the top has a cyst with pus. That was why I had chosen that picture. You can see it kind of in its jowls. So tell me a little bit about where you have applied silica with animals, Dr. Alex.
Well, basically for when we have skin and hair and nail conditions where you need to strengthen it, and it's very, very useful and very complementary if it is a chronic condition with the chronic remedy, as well as boils. I mean, for instance, today I have a patient that is on a chronic remedy for a very chronic condition, actually eye condition, that suddenly came out with some pimples which are very hard and full of pus, and I just prescribed some silica tissue salts to help resolve while the chronic remedy.
Continues to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, brilliant.
Without clashing.
Right. Supportive. It's all about supportive.
Yeah.
And we use a lot of herbs for that too in our practice. When we are looking at a case, it's very rare that we respond just with a remedy. We often will suggest cell salts and some type of herbal support for the system if it calls for that. The silica with the cysts and the boils and the acne, one of my birds has been struggling with bumblefoot for a while, and this was what cleared it up for her, was just keeping this in her water every single day. There was a well prescribed remedy, but I really feel like it was the silica, that because she had it for a while before I discovered it. And so it had been kind of deep seated in her system, and just giving that support every single day and allowing the body to gently move things out. Alex, what's your take on silica cell salt when people have pins or plates or replacement parts in their body? Do you avoid that? Do you avoid recommending the cell salt like we do with the remedy?
No.
You don't. Okay. You don't have any concerns about silica being an issue.
I wouldn't use it for a prolonged period of time.
Okay.
But for a short period of time, I wouldn't, because silica acts more on a physical level. Not really, pulling things out of the body. It's just a little balance.
Yeah, and Schussler talks a little bit about this and says that silica, for the delay in the absorption, may also be caused by a deficiency in silica of calc phos. So those are two remedies that you can, or two cell salts, not remedies, two cell salts that you can pair together, is calc phos and silica, and that really helps the body to absorb the calc phos or whatever they happen to be in need of that for. And then the one that I tend to share with most people and suggest to start somebody on is BioPlasma. This is such a great collection because it's all 12. And it's this time of year, especially as kids are starting to go back to school, as animals are starting to get exposed to other animals, as we are moving into fall and getting ready for winter, if we're working really hard to, get the hay in the barn, to get everything harvested. With every season change, I find BioPlasma to be really, really helpful and supportive.
True. I really don't have much more to add. So this is the combination of the 12 that we talked about, each and every one individually.
Yeah.
And if there is cases of malnutrition or stressful cases, or people or animals under stress,
Yeah.
this is definitely a fantastic remedy to have at hand. And you don't have to think very much about what is really, needs to be addressed, because by using the 12 cell salts, you are addressing absolutely everything.
Right.
So
Oops,
you cannot go
sorry.
wrong,
Yeah. Yeah.
And the beauty of cell salts, again, because they are like homeopathic vitamins, they do in the body what needs to be done.
Mhm.
So, if it's you were talking about silica, and silica is very well known for expelling foreign bodies out of the body. So you ask if somebody had a knee replacement or a hip replacement or a broken leg and has a plate.
Mhm.
Silica, yes, homeopathically, in a 30C, in a 200C, it will push things out of the body
Right.
and has the potential, of creating some serious trouble for people like that. The silica homeopathically with the 6X,
With
if
the
there
cell
is
salts, you
need,
mean?
the
Yeah,
cell
with the cell
salts,
salts.
if there is a need to reabsorb the pus, it will help the body to reabsorb the pus or the boil, or
Mhm.
if there is a need to expel the pus, it will expel the pus. So
Right.
it's a very low potency that works very much on the physical level, and it has a wisdom. We are again giving material doses, but very, very low material doses.
Right. Right.
So it
And
will help to do the body what needs to do for
what
the
needs
higher
to be done.
purpose. Yeah.
Right. And the bioplasma is all 12 of those mixed together, and it's still just a 6X. So,
Yeah.
so it's not a material dose, and it's not something that you need to be concerned with. But I do appreciate the insight of only taking it for a short amount of time if you do have concerns of something, that's an implant or pin or what have you, because that's quite common with people. So one of the things that,
And I have to say something else,
Hmm.
actually, even if you don't have an implant or anything like that, if you take silica in homeopathic potency, 30C, 200C, 1M, whatever, and you repeatedly do it, it can actually, I've seen it open scars and making scars which were old wounds that were totally healed, and there was no. I had a patient that misunderstood my instructions, so he was with a cough, and I prescribed silica, not tissue salts, homeopathically, I have to say. And I said, take every 3 to 4 hours until you feel better. And because he felt better, but I expected him, at least most of my patients know, obviously this one did not know, that, okay, until you feel better, and then you fall asleep and you sleep through the night, and next morning you wake up and you reassess the situation. Well, because he felt so much better, he put an alarm clock. So he took it every 3 hours around the clock, day and night. And after, I don't know, when he got in touch with me, I think after 2 days, his belly button was suppurating. His belly button was oozing, and it was only for the silica. Unbelievable. And of course, it makes sense because the belly button is a scar.
Sure.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So good to know. And important to listen to your homeopath when they say take 1 dose or 2 doses, and then please reach back out. We need to know how you're responding.
Better.
Yeah.
Until better.
Right. When you start to feel better, stop. Yeah.
Less is more, not the other way around.
Right.
You
With
know,
remedies,
you don't take
it
more.
absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is. We did have a question from Karen. She said, when a person has already given their animal a 12 cell salt combo, like the BioPlasma, but then there is a condition that seems like it would be addressed by one of these individual ones. Would they start to give that particular one in addition to the 12? So there's more frequent dosing of that particular one? So would
No.
you wouldn't combine the 12 with an individual?
No.
Okay, I would say that's true, that I would not be inclined to add it on to the 12.
You always address what the body is showing you in the first place.
Right.
So a good approach is to see the issue, see which tissue salt has the affinity for the issue, go with that tissue salt, and then when the condition improves, if you want to support the whole body, then you can give
Continue
the
with the 12.
BioPlasma.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other question that Karen had was silica cell salt for mange. Is that a good choice? And
yeah, could be, definitely.
It depends on how the mange is presenting, though. So Kali Sulphate is about skin balance. So that's the one that comes to mind for me, because mange can be pretty messy with scales or look like eczema or psoriasis or what have you. And then another skin, this Nat Sulphate comes to mind because of the liver, of supporting the liver, which of course, when an animal is sick, especially with something like mange, their system is depleted. But with
I mean, usually the animals that are with mange, they are very malnutrition. Usually they are stray dogs. I've never seen a dog with mange that was a pet of someone.
That was healthy.
Not healthy, but that has been well fed and well taken care of. I had numerous cases of mange with in Greece. They were all strays, and and so it's stress and undernourishment. So either you go with the BioPlasma because there is a general malnutrition and you are addressing the whole body, or I would do a combination of calc sulf, Kali sulf, Natrum and Silica.
Natrum,
Silica, Kali sulf and calc sulf, because mange has this crusts. Yeah.
Right. The acne.
And usually are yellow as well, so
okay.
The Kali sulf and the calc sulf together with the Natrum and the Silica would be a very good combination for mange.
And we talked about some of the other labs. So Highlands in the United States is the most common cell salts that are available. And I just want to touch on that really quickly. And another one that recently came up is Jackson's Naturals, I think is the actual company. And I've recently started to recommend these because they are vegan. They don't use lactose, they use sucrose, and they don't put any fillers in, nothing to thicken or bind. It is just the cell salt and just the sucrose, just the sugar. So if you have anybody with milk allergies or concerns of that type of thing with regard to cell salts, and you know that you're going to be giving them frequently, think of this particular brand, Jackson's, and that's here in the United States. And then you had mentioned that Helios has some blends of cell salts. Combinations, yeah.
Yeah, but I think many pharmacies do it. It's funny enough, that I use so often the Hahnemann Labs, and it was a total surprise to me
That they don't carry it. Yeah.
that they don't sell cell salts. How
They
is this possible? You know?
Their focus but they do make remedies. So, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I think their focus as far as the pharmacy goes is to stick strictly with homeopathy. So,
But this is homeopathy. It's just a different dilution. It's the same principle and the same thing.
I couldn't find anything on their site about cell salts, but
No.
But it is good to know that we do have a couple of options here. And then again, to look at Helios, and is it Ainsworthy or Remedia?
Ainsworth, but there are many others. New Era.
In Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we'll come up with a list and share that with folks in the comments when we're all done today. And we really want to thank everybody. Thank you, Karen, for the great questions.
This is a good one. Can you see this?
Hang on just a second. Let me do this. And then, yes, I can. New Era. Can you say something so that it shows up?
Well, well, this is one for kids because they like the tablets are a little bit bigger, but they dissolve very quickly, and they feel like caramella, so it's great for kids. But then I have from Helios, you know, you can even choose the size of the tablets in pills number 3 or pills number 6, which are bigger balls. Do you want me to go and pick them up quickly?
That's okay. I think if somebody goes to their website, they'll see, and I'll include.
No, they don't
links.
see. They don't put pictures of the remedies. They just show.
They just tell you what your choices are. Yeah.
You have
and
to
I know that there's another. It's actually in Ireland. I think it's called Freeman's. So I'll check and see if they show the different sizes of pellets. They have pellets, they have tablets, they have liquid. I'm not sure about the cell salts with liquid, but I know that
no
they
liquid.
do.
There is no cell salts in liquid.
But they do the pellets and the tablets, I believe.
They do.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to connect with you. And again, thanks, Karen, for the great questions. And we hope that this was helpful with regard to cell salts. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them after, and we'll be sure to respond. Dr. Alex and I are Homeopathy United, and we are grateful to share this information with everybody and also to connect with all of our members. Thank you for continuing to share the group and for posting what you have going on at your farm or home or what have you. We've had everything from hamsters to llamas in the last month, and it's been amazing just to see everybody.
And I have to say that there were a few people this week for the first time that joined with buffaloes. They haven't posted yet, but they do have buffaloes.
Really?
So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that's like. I've seen some pretty interesting videos lately of buffaloes, so that's great. Well, thank you, everybody. If you need any support, if you need some help, if you're stuck on a remedy, if you have a chronic or an acute situation, please reach out. We're happy to help. You'll find us on Homeopathy United on Facebook and also here. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.